everybody. Welcome back to the Red Brow Project. We are here on episode 58. This is so exciting. I'm here with a wonderful guest tonight, but before we introduce her, I want to say hello to Renee. Hey, how are you doing over there?
Hi, I'm hanging in there, doing great on whatever day this is, but we are so excited to be back with each other and with our guests. So, yeah, I'm excited to see you guys.
I'm so excited to be here too, and yeah, I don't know what day it is anymore, but I know that we are Women Crush Wednesdaying with our guests, regardless of whatever day we can't figure out what it is. We know that we're crushing hard today on our guest, Bibiana Krall. I'm so excited to have you here tonight, recommended by a former guest, Dr. Summer Watson, and I know you've spoken on her podcast as well, so we're just excited to hear more about you, share your story with our followers, and hopefully get you some new followers too from all of this. So I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for having me here tonight. This is awesome. Well, my name is Bibiana Krall, and I spend the majority of my days writing novels and short stories. And I also help produce a sort of a vlog on YouTube where I'm trying to get people reading and interested in storytelling and supporting other writers, supporting each other. And I'm a mom, and I used to be a world traveler. Now I'm just vicariously traveling in my old pictures, and considered turning my passport this morning into a coffee, like a thing to put on the coffee table, because I don't know if I'm ever going to use it again, which really kind of freaks me out.
I have so many follow-up questions for you on that in the year of COVID and you being an international traveler. Like, how does that feel right now? Or were you already kind of stopping traveling?
Well, I mean, my husband and I actually met because of travel and aviation. I was in the international travel business for years and years before I became a writer, and then I was in private aviation too, and my husband's in private aviation, so that's kind of how we met each other. So we're both sort of travel nuts, but you know, we never found the right person to travel with, which can be really difficult if you're in not a weird place, I'll just say a place where things are really not like what you're used to. If you're with the wrong person, it can be so awful. And you know, I've had to leave people, like men, you know, standing in the road and just say, okay, I'm gonna go get a glass of wine, and you know, I just can't do this right now. So, but a few weeks ago I rented a car because I had cabin fever so bad. I rented a car and drove almost 1,300 miles to go visit a friend who lives in Virginia. But because I was so worried about COVID and worried about exposing people and exposing myself, whatever, I literally put food and water in the back of my car and a little blanket and a pillow. And I just cruised. I only stopped to use like a restroom and like use the elbow to open the doors and stuff. And I boogied. I mean, oh my gosh, it was like a 12-hour drive. So, but it's amazing though how much time we all spend talking to other people, getting notifications, texting, you know, all this other stuff. You can't do any of that when you're driving for 12 hours through the mountains. So it was pretty cool actually, but I think about in the last hour, I was really wishing I was on an airplane drinking a red wine and somebody else was asking me if I wanted something. Because, you know, I'm really not a road tripper type of person. I'm more of an airplane kind of person. So I like the fact that I can drink wine and get somewhere, and you can't do that when you're driving a car. So, you know, or at least you yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. I mean, if you want to arrive to your destination, you know, but yeah, I'm really, really missing it. So I've been planning a trip with my husband to Norway, and we've decided we're going to go to Norway, and we're going to rent one of those little pacer van things. And we are going like north of Tromsø. and we want to like see wolves and wild salmon jumping in rivers and stuff. We are so ready to get out of here.
That sounds amazing.
I know. I just want to stand on the edge of a fjord and do like that thing they did in that one movie, the Titanic, before it was sinking, you know. So I really, really need it. And I don't want to go to cities right now. Cities seem kind of scary a little bit. So yeah, so big nature it's just calling my name, you know. I just want to stand on the top of a huge peninsula and just, you know, be free for a minute. No Wi-Fi either, just the whole thing. So what about you guys? I mean, like, are you feeling the same way?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. I travel for work, and Renee does too, but I mean, it's just like this lockdown and not being able to go anywhere is just feeling like I can't anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm usually one that will get in a car, but I just want to get somewhere fast right now. So props to you for doing the road trip.
Yeah, I was going to say, you, without Wi-Fi though, and driving, I mean, it had to be kind of nice to unplug a little bit and just kind of enjoy the wide open road and not the same roads you've been on for a little bit, especially as an avid traveler. I know that personally, I have about a 10 day, I was going to say 10 week, but it's not really 10 week. It's a 10 day to 2 week in my normal traveling life where I'm kind of itching at the walls once I get there. So this stretch has been extremely challenging. So I can definitely relate to everything that you're saying. But yeah, then at the end of the 12 hours, you're ready to be done and really decompress and have a nice glass of red and just chill out. So
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happened, because there was some huge storm like in the last hour, and it was like lightning and people crashing into each other and stuff. And I was really tired and a little bit bleary-eyed, you know. And so, yeah, that last hour, I was like, just get me there. Just get me there. And when I finally got there and I did have the glass of wine, I mean, I was like a paper doll, you know, like 10 minutes later, I'm asleep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bibiana, you have such a diverse and kind of, I love that it's multifaceted background, and you're such a free spirit. I mean, you get that initially from looking at your website and looking at, you know, your bios and what you've done and where your heart is and your passion. How did you decide that going down the path to be an author was the right career change for you?
Well, you know, I was a weird kid, and I guess I'm kind of a weird grown up too, to be honest with you. Weird in the sense that I've never been confused about anything except for romantic partners. That definitely has that's its own show, and that we would need strong beverages for that. But when I was 4, I was telling my husband this the other day. When I was 4 years old, I remember the night like it was yesterday, and my parents were asleep, and I had a tutu on. Because like I said, I was a little bit of an odd kid. And it was summer, and I snuck outside and laid in the grass. And the sky was amazing that night. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I grew up in the country, so this is a time when you actually could see the stars, and you didn't have to be in Maine or Nova Scotia to see them. But anyway, I was just looking at the stars, and I mapped out my entire life. And the author aspect of it was the second part of my plan. I have 3 things I plan to do in my life before I'm gone, and this is plan B. So.
Wow, and how old were you?
I was 4.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of intense for a 4-year-old, I think. You know, I'm from such a huge family. I think my parents just kind of blew it off. They were like, oh, okay, you know, another kid. You know, there was always another kid. But I didn't really share that with people. I just made up my mind. And that's what I sort of, you know, that's what I held on to. Even when things weren't really when I wasn't in the position to do it, I knew that I wanted to be a novelist basically since I was 4.
So how do you stay on that path? Because, you know, I mean, there's so many times people are like, I just can't, I have fear or whatever. They let themselves derail. So how did you stay so focused?
Well, you know, for a long time, I pursued my first thing, which was ballerina. And when I was 16 years old, I got in a really terrible crash. And my entire life changed. My dreams changed. Everything I was able to do pretty much completely went to zero. So I had to reevaluate, and I did a lot of reevaluating and a lot of rebelling. And years passed. You know, things happen. You've got to pay the rent. You've got to take care of business. You know, dreams unfortunately don't come first. Dreams should come first, but they don't. And you can't eat dreams for breakfast, and dreams don't keep the lights on.
Lucky Charms doesn't work.
I know. I wish they did. But yeah, you know, I got a little bit lost somewhere along the way, and then I became a mom, and that's not lost. That's a different kind of focus. And just a few years, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, I was having like the very worst day you can possibly imagine. I was told by a woman that I wasn't really bonkers about in the first place. I was told by a woman with about 25 other women witnessing this that were all colleagues, telling me it is what it is, and what I said wasn't important, what I said didn't matter. And I was like, what? You know, everything I feel and say doesn't matter. And it just did something to my brain. It's almost like I got struck by lightning. And I was like, my loyalties are so in the wrong place right now. And I almost wanted to thank her because she released me from feeling loyalty anymore. And then I was like, okay, it's time to be a novelist. And it was just like that.
Wow.
So yeah, you know, she, even though it was really brutal how it all went down, she kind of did me a favor. Isn't that weird?
And at the
It's one of
time,
those moments.
So yeah, I'd been just sort of, I don't know, like marshmallowing through it. It was always sort of in the background. You know, I was always reading books. I was always taking these amazing adventures. And I consider that kind of research for being a writer. You know, amazing research, falling out of love, having dramatic, tumultuous relationships, all that kind of stuff. That's all great fodder for writing stories.
lots of great content right there.
Right, exactly. Like you can write those scenes very easily if you've lived on, but I wasn't actually actively doing it. And that one day, it just really, it was like a lightning strike. Like, if not now, when? You know, if your loyalties have been with these people and they don't see you, they don't appreciate what you're doing or whatever, you know, it's time for my dream. It's time, because if I don't do it, I mean, I'm
now, then when?
Right, I'm gonna run out of time. And what if I give my loyalty to somebody else and this same thing happens again, and then 2 seconds later, lights out, you know, we're done? That would just suck, you know? And I did not want that to be me. So, you know, that's kind of what happened. But she really did. Her really mean girl kind of attitude, really, it just smacked me right in the head. I was like, okay, you know, thank you. And I hung up the phone, and I had just gotten the gigantic fall Vogue edition, you know, the one with all the great fashion in it.
Yeah.
And I was so ticked off, I almost ripped it in half. And I know, and I hadn't even read it yet.
That is strength.
Which is like so tragic, right? Like you wait all year for that one. And even my husband, he saw what I did to that magazine. He's like, oh my God, you know, and he was like, what is wrong? And the dam broke. But yeah, basically the next day, I put my 2 weeks in and decided to completely redesign everything. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if we would have enough money. You know, I went back to graduate school. We were doing all kinds of like huge, enormous changes all of a sudden. I really did get struck by lightning, you know, in the sense that it was just like, what am I doing? I've been so off track from dream number 2. I have a third one too, but I'm going to do that when I'm 75.
Okay. You have a plan.
Oh yeah, totally. I made it when I was 4. So.
Right.
Oh, I'm loving this story. And I love that it turns out that your first plan was to be a ballerina. And that makes complete sense because you were lying in the grass with your tutu on.
Yeah.
And I mean, so this is in itself a blessing in disguise because it got you onto your second path.
Right.
But even that story is, I only know a little bit about the scholarship and kind of how it started, but that is even amazing how you took that first leap, that scary leap, and then how the pieces started to fall into line. So can you please share with us a little bit about that?
Well, you know, I didn't really know how to be a writer, you know, and maybe that sounds weird to people. Some people just pick up a pen and paper and they start writing.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to express myself the way that I really wanted to. And luckily in Savannah, there's a lot of writers. And in Charleston, there's a lot of writers. I live in a great, you know, coastal southern area that really does have something in the water. And I mean, there are some amazing writers around here that are very successful. And every once in a while, I'll see them at one of the book society things or something, and I'll just be like so starstruck. But anyway, I decided to attend the Asaba Writers Retreat. And Asaba Island is only about 7 miles away, but it may as well be Mars because it's really wild, uninhabited. It has a mansion and it has a hunting lodge and just a few other small buildings on it. But basically nobody lives there anymore. Ms. West is, I believe she is 107 now.
Wow.
And she grew up on the island and lived in the mansion and donated this island to the state of Georgia in like the 1980s, with the promise they would never develop it. But anyway, Asaba Writers Retreat is in the hunting lodge, and there were a couple of really famous writers who were there that weekend. And I mean, people like Alice Walker have attended this retreat. So I'm not kidding. It's like such a big deal. I was so excited to be there. And a famous writer who writes naval thrillers. And his work is actually taught at the Naval Academy in the English Literature department. Well, I didn't know all this about him. I'm not really, I don't read naval thrillers. I read, you know, I read a lot of Gothic type things and mysteries. And so I was just clueless. But anyway, he read my work and said, I'm sorry, after he read it. And I didn't really know what he meant. And he said, I'm sorry, I think you're a writer, but now you need to find your tribe. And I was totally relating to that. Of course, everybody wants to hear that they're a writer, but he felt really genuine, but still I wasn't sure about this guy. And he wanted to ride on the tailgate with me when we were going back to the ferry, because I'm not kidding, this island has like wild pigs, alligators. It's like really, it's a cool place. But anyway, I didn't want him to ride on the tailgate with me because I didn't know how I felt about him yet.
Right. Fair.
And I'm a country girl. When you ride on a tailgate with a boy, married or unmarried, it means that you have like some sort of relationship with each other somehow. So I was like, no, I don't want you on the tailgate with me. But anyway, he said he was going to offer me a scholarship at the college where he taught, and I was like, yeah, whatever, you know. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little jaded. I've been around a little too long. When people say, oh, I think it's amazing, I'll call you. I'm like, yeah, crickets, beep, 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 you know. I'm not going to sit around waiting for it. I'm just going to keep rolling. But I told my husband, I said, if he's for real, I said, it'll be here in a week. And if he's not, then, you know, I'll just move on with my life and keep writing. And it didn't come on the 7th day. It came on the 8th day. And I almost dropped it in the spaghetti sauce. I was so shocked and so amazed. And, you know, I was bawling my head off. It was really cool. Like, it's the good kind of crying that women don't get enough of.
Right. We need more of that in COVID times, the good kind of crying.
Oh, I know, right? Instead, it's more like this sort of like, you know, fetal position thing, and you're like, notifications off.
Right.
And then you have like a 5-pound bag of like Cheetos in your Netflix thing, you know? I totally get it. I get it.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible just about the scholarship. And it wasn't on the 7th day, but it came on the 8th day. So I mean, that even keeps it more interesting.
I know. Well, you know, on the 7th day, I went to bed and I was like, you know, there you go. There you go. You know, you got to keep writing. You know, this guy isn't your entire future. And if he is, you're in trouble because it's really on you, you know. But on that night when I went to bed, I was just like, man, you know, I don't even want to be bummed out, but I'm still bummed out. That
Sure.
On the 8th day when it did come, I was like, you know, it felt like rockets, like Elon Musk was setting off rockets in the kitchen.
So from there you went back to school.
Yes.
Okay. And you're still writing along the way, but you're going back to school.
Oh yeah. Well, I actually, you know, I went and got a Master's of Arts in Fiction Writing, and then I got an MFA right after that in creative writing. So basically, and I did an accelerated program. So I basically did 2 master's degrees back to back in 3 years.
Wow.
And I was 4.0 Dean's List the whole time.
Well, you were passionate about it. When I find that when you actually are in a major or program that you like the studies are that much easier. I mean, not easier, but you know what I mean? Like there's a love for it.
Yeah, well, there's a reason, you know, there's always a reason to power through, I think. But when you really do have a passion for it, it doesn't feel like, you know, somebody's forcing you to. I mean, I'll be honest, the creative thesis, I edited and cleaned it up 3 times in 1 month, and it's 135,000 words. And, you know, so basically it was almost 400,000 words that were cleaned up and redone and sort of rethought through in a month. And I was wearing heating pads on my wrist just because, I mean, like, it was bad. It was really, I felt like I was on some kind of weird, like Mad Max Iron Man thing for your brain.
The image that just came to my mind was the image, you guys have seen the quote with the ballerina and the toes when they're unwrapped, and this is all the work that goes behind everything you see, and you don't see all of that sometimes. And that's exactly what actually came to mind, Bibiana, as you're describing, you know, all of the hours and time you were spent with that and the heating pads on your wrists. I mean, that's amazing. And I think that something that I think that is really, I think that you're going to be able to shed a lot of light on is, what were some of the feelings and emotions that you were feeling going through a career change? I know we kind of talked about that a little bit, but I mean, especially right now, that is super valid, because some people are being pushed into a career change, whether you want to or not. Other people are, you know, ready for the career change, ready to dive in. Other people may be mourning what they can't do anymore. So there's so many emotions and feelings going in. But talk to us a little bit just about the career change and what that meant and felt like for you.
Well, it was, you know, what's really funny is I was more worried about what it was going to do to my personal relationships than about the career change itself. So I was, I was contributing financially before that, and I was doing my part with money. I was doing my part with, the grocery shopping, and we have, two daughters, both teenagers. And, so we were, co-parenting, all that kind of stuff. But when I went back to graduate school, I couldn't always make dinner because literally I had to, tag in to some virtual class, and I had to answer like all these questions and modules with people in real time, or, so some of my responsibilities were not, it really had to shift to other people. And that's not easy because people in a household relationship, sometimes they don't say it, but they have an expectation that certain people have to do certain things. So that role change stuff can get a little bit weird with your partner, because maybe your partner secretly thinks that whatever it is that they're doing is something that you should be doing. So you get these really weird, like sort of undercurrent power plays. And, I don't even think people mean to do them sometimes. It just sort of happens. So I was really more concerned about that kind of stuff. And the fact that money was going out the other way, because I was buying really expensive books, and, I was saving money on gas. I wasn't commuting as much. It was before I was commuting like 2 hours round trip, so my car, was not getting all that mileage. But changing careers, the most terrifying thing for me about it was how it was going to affect my personal relationships. As far as like learning new skills or having new people, that's never been really a big thing for me. I actually like that newness.
Yeah.
Because at first there's that honeymoon phase where everybody's cool, and maybe even the people who aren't really that nice might get you a coffee at first. But then like a year later, it's like, claws out. But, hopefully not. But, sometimes it is how it works. But I think the hardest thing too was also the social aspect. I mean, I'm not young, and most of my cohort were 25, 26, 27. So they're what I call professional students. They go right from the bachelor's to the master's and maybe the PhD. So when they're like 35 years old, they're finally done with school, but they've been in school for, most of their life. And so I was like this weird chick who wears like crazy scarves and stuff, and shows up, and I was at least 20 years older than most of the people, not all of them, but most of them. And so socially it was really hard, too, because they had different value systems, different ideas of what's cool, just a lot of different things. But the funny thing is that, I've worked hard my entire life for everything that I have. So when it really came down to, balls to the wall, hard stuff, I was all right. And so it sort of taught me a lesson that maybe somebody has youth, maybe somebody's better looking, maybe they're even funnier, which to me is more important. I think funny is more important than good looking. But the whole thing is everybody's got something that they bring to the table, and mine is stamina and the ability, even when, I feel like I'm basically in a nut crusher, I'm going hard, and I'm going to go until I'm done. And that's not something that some people can handle because they don't have enough life wisdom to realize that the best way to get away from the Minotaur is to run straight ahead. You know what I mean? Like, you don't stop, you don't sit down, take a little breather, just roll it, and maybe, maybe you'll get away, maybe you won't. But yeah, I think that's what's the most terrifying, is that whatever it is that you're working on is going to change your life to such an extent that you're going to feel like you've lost something really important. But I think what people forget is sometimes those changes is how you're going to get to the really great stuff. But you kind of have to have to take that chance first.
Absolutely. I want to go back to your international travel or your travel in general, because I'm just, I think everybody right now is sitting there dreaming of places to go and where they could be.
Oh yeah.
So, and this was supposed to be my year of travel. I was going to do my first independent trip, and so it didn't happen. So I guess, what is one favorite location you have, if you could pick one that you would recommend an independent trip?
Oh, if you were going to go by yourself?
Yeah.
Well, I think travel is as individual as fashion. It's as individual as maybe even your favorite foods. I mean, I would go anywhere by myself. So I'm not like a lot of people, but I think if a woman is going to travel by herself, I think the most important thing for her to do is, first of all, to work on her fitness. And the reason I say that is, not only do you maybe need to, physically be a little stronger, but it gives you confidence and maybe a sort of physicality that will help you be safer, in certain places, especially where women are seen differently maybe than they are here in America. But I mean, honestly, I would go almost anywhere except for, there are some countries in the Middle East, you'd have to pay me a lot of money to go to, because, there's just there's a disconnect in some of the value systems for me. So I refuse to give my money, to that value system. But that's just a personal preference for me. But if I was a woman and I was going to travel alone, I don't know, is city, country, island, like, give me an example. Like, where were you going to go on your independent trip?
Oh, I wanted to go somewhere in Europe, because I really don't travel internationally. And I'm a needy friend. So this was supposed to be my independence.
Well, I think,
knowing myself really well, I'm the needy friend.
Needy friend. Well, I think from the perspective of a woman traveling alone, if I was going to be in Europe, I would say that the northern countries like Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, I think you would feel really comfortable there. And the reason I say that is because the feeling that I get when I'm there is people sort of hang out with their friends. So it's like groups of friends. So it's men, women, people who've known each other, sometimes from childhood, sometimes from college. And so if you're that person who just sort of shows up and you're a cool American, people would totally hang out with you, have a beer with you, talk about life with you, or hang out at a cafe, and you wouldn't feel totally alone, because it's a very sort of social kind of society in that part of the world. And I think women are treated more equally as well, because there are some places that I travel sometimes, and literally I will have, the first thing someone says when I check into the hotel is, "Where's your husband?" And I don't, and I wasn't married then, and I was like, I don't know, he's in the future. He's somewhere in the future. Let's see if I find him.
Got to that star constellation.
Right. Yeah. Why are we talking about my husband? I have my own money. I have my passport. Like, what? Do I need a man to check me in because you think I can't sign my name, or what's going on here? What are you asking me? So, and sometimes when you go to certain places, you'll get that. But there are so many places though that you could go. But, I have heard that the past couple years, in some of the big cities like Paris and Frankfurt and whatever, some of the situations dealing with people who sort of live on the fringe have increased, because the poverty's increased, the political aspects have really changed. And so people have come as refugees and that kind of stuff. So, when there's a lot of people on the street that maybe don't have somewhere else to go, I think from a woman's perspective, it's not as safe as like we'll say like a Caribbean island where everybody knows everybody. I mean, it's an island. How far is anybody going to go if they, try to do something or whatever? But I mean, I feel comfortable almost anywhere. But if it's a place that has like a lot of street crime or a lot of social issues or whatever, I always start thinking about those things, and try not to travel at like 3 o'clock in the morning, or if I do want to have more than one drink, I tend to have a hotel around the corner from my hotel, so I'm not riding around in taxis at 1 o'clock in the morning, buzzed out of my mind, and I don't know where the taxi driver is going. That kind of stuff can be kind of not really the best situation for a woman. But if you know karate or what is that, Krav Maga stuff, like, just go ahead. I mean, you'd be fine.
I don't know either of those, so I will take the first tip. But yeah, no, that's great. But I also love the physical fitness too, because I think you're right. I think it gives you a sense of confidence.
Yeah.
So that you're not, so you feel good being there. You're not constantly watching over your shoulder and not enjoying.
Right. You feel like you can handle yourself. And not only that, but I mean, if you really are traveling by yourself, you're going to have to carry your own stuff. So if you're not carrying your own stuff, or it's too heavy, or you're depending on wheels, which in Europe can be really bad because there's so many cobblestones and not really accessible type of entrances, you're in big trouble if you can't at least carry your 35-pound, 45-pound bag on your own, because there aren't very many people anymore who are going to help you with it. Sorry to tell you, but I learned on a very dramatic European trip that if you can't carry your own stuff, don't bring it. Wow. So I lost a pair of Spanish high heels on a train track that day. It was bad. It was really bad.
That sounds like your next novel.
So we got in such a huge fight. But it's because we were in a beer hall, and there was this couple from Amsterdam who'd gotten married like 3 days before, and they wanted to swap partners. Oh. Right. So we're drinking beer. I don't even know these people. And they just mentioned it like the same way some people would say, oh, it was 85 degrees today. They just kind of mentioned that. And my partner was, I think, kind of open to it. I was not open to it. And we got in a huge row. And, my Spanish high heels got thrown out of my bag, and I had stuff flying everywhere out of my suitcase. I mean, it was bad. But maybe it was just a really strong beer.
Maybe.
That is true. Bibiana, that is like content. Have you written about that yet? I know
I haven't yet.
Fiction, but I mean, you can always make it a little fictional, and then it could be legit.
That's true. But I couldn't understand why people just got married and they're already bored. I'm like, what, 3 days into it? You're in trouble, dudes.
Man, you have so many good stories. I am sure you are going to be filling the pages for a long time. And so I know that you have a series coming up that I'm going to let you share with us a little bit about, because I feel like it's perfect for Halloween and autumn. And I'm a big kind of haunted, good, scary movie, good book, kind of girl. But I refuse to admit that the summer might be coming to an end, but I'll get over it.
I know the summer feels like it was like an invisible summer. Is there such a thing as maybe that's even a title of a novel? The Invisible Summer. Yeah, because you know what? I did not go swimming once.
I just got in my bathing suit for the first time last week, and I can't even believe it. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I had all these plans to go, kayaking and camping over on Little Tybee and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. None of it happened. I mean, Invisible Summer. Oh. I think I've got it. I'm actually writing that down right now.
Yeah. Well, you can come back to this and watch it again if you forget. But
yeah, exactly. Well, the new book that's coming out is called Hearth Fires, and I co-wrote it, which I never co-write with people, mainly because of the fact that, you know, my stuff it tends not to jive well with other people, because it's me, and I'm unapologetic about it. Either you love it or hate it. I don't think people ever feel neutral about what I'm doing. But Hearth Fires is 6 stories. So Veronica Klein-Barton wrote 3, I wrote 3, and we wrote them during lockdown and during Mercury and retrograde. And all of these weird things started happening to us. And, you know, I've had weird things happen to me my whole life. I'm really super connected to some kind of energy in the universe that, you know, what can I say? It makes no sense to other people, but I'm used to it now, so it makes sense to me. But Veronica has never had this kind of stuff go on. Well, it was going on at her house while we were writing this stuff and talking about the stories. And she had water coming out of a pendant in her living room, like over her computer.
Oh
And yeah, and I told her she had to like tie a red ribbon around the doorknob in her house, and she did it.
Getting
And it
chills.
was and she did that, and everything was okay. And then all of a sudden, she was in her. She heard noise the next day coming from her second story, her like one of her guest bedrooms where she writes. And she has a fireplace that has one of those electronic little snappy things you can turn the flames on. Well, music was coming out of the fireplace. And yeah, and it's like, you know, 95 degrees in California, so she didn't have the fireplace on.
Oh God.
Right, and she's like, what the heck is going on? I mean, like music coming out of like where the like fake logs are. And she called me freaking out. She's like, what is this? I'm like, dude, I don't know. That's a new one for me too. But it turns out one of our neighbors had some weird Wi-Fi, and there was a Wi-Fi component that was in her fireplace, and somehow his music was playing it. I don't know. I still don't quite understand that. But with me, I was writing a story about, somebody told me a story about something really bad that happened to a girl in the 80s around here. And the people who did it weren't punished. And a lot of people knew who they were, and they weren't punished. And she's scared, the woman who told me the story. And I have been looking for a way to write this story ever since. So I'm thinking about writing the story, and all these weird things are happening to Veronica. And I went out on my porch at like 4 o'clock in the morning and took a little walk. Sometimes I do that. And there's an old courthouse, like a really historic one. You know, the one that was in The Gift, that movie that was filmed in Savannah. Mm-hmm. With that courthouse is really close to me. And there was mist up in the window, and it looked like somebody was up there. You know, like all the windows are dark. I mean, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. And there's like a fog on the window, and it looks like somebody's been up there writing messages, like with their finger. And I'm like, what the heck? It really creeped me out more than if there was like, you know, like a dude laying in the bushes or something that grabbed my ankles, you know? So I was like, this is too weird. Went home, locked the doors, you know, whatever. And a couple of days later, I was drawn to go, you know, back again. Of course, you know, curiosity killed the cat. It also killed the writer. But anyway, there was something in the window again. And I realized that it was time to write that story. And that story, that's actually the title of the story, The Window. And that's what kind of gave me the idea on how I could talk about something that someone whispered to me. Names changed, situation, you know, kind of changed, whatever. But I'm still telling this person's story, and she knows I'm telling this story, because when I ended it, I could kind of feel like a presence around me, you know, like grateful that I had sort of put this information out there, but also kind of like not, I don't know, it's hard to explain. And then I thought about it, and the next day I changed the ending to have more of a poetic justice. And I felt a satisfaction, and I felt this spirit finally leave me. So she's happy. She's happy because I gave her the poetic justice, or the justice that she never had in real life. So, but these stories are unusual because they're short stories, but they feel more like novels. They're fully developed. They have amazing characters. They take you around the world. So you're going to go to Savannah, Louisiana, Salem, Big Sur, Scotland, and Paris in these in Hearthfires. And I'd be happy to send you both a copy of them when they come out September 7th. And we made a little, well, Veronica did it. She made a little sort of spooky swag, because the theme in this particular collection is the Ouija board. So somehow the Ouija board shows up in every single one of these stories, but you're not necessarily using it. You're not necessarily having spirits, come out of the board or anything, but the Ouija board pops up in one way or another through the stories. And it's really cool to see how it shows up. But we feel like writing during COVID and writing during, Mercury in retrograde, that in a lot of ways, the spirits were sort of, wandering, agitated, looking for somebody to scare the heck out of, as if we weren't all scared enough this year, right? That when Veronica and I started writing these stories, we actually feel like we were guided, kind of like the Ouija board, and that's where that idea came from.
Wow.
Well, I'm not going to sleep tonight now.
That is incredible. I mean, talk about a thriller. If you're going to sit there and in the dark and light a candle, pour a glass of wine, a bowl of candy corn, and just read, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds wicked. That's awesome. I'm so excited for him to come out. So you said September 7th, and where can viewers and readers purchase?
Well, right now it's on pre-order on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, and some other, basically the main bookstores, and it will be available in paperback on September 7th. Right now the pre-order is just for the ebook.
Okay.
Because we're in the final design of the paperback, because we have something called ARC readers. So there are people who read the book in its final sort of phase. And, we're hoping to put a few of the reviews on the inside or on the cover. So we're holding off just a few more days to just see if we can put our final phase on it. But, we're all over the place for sure. If you look for Hearthfires on Goodreads, or my name, Bibiana Krall, if you don't see Hearthfires, I would be in absolute shock at this point, because we did a trailer on YouTube. I produce a lot of book trailers, and I do it for clients sometimes too. But
you guys picked like some of the best places for like an October thriller story to take place, by the way.
Well, we knew, if there's any way to check the temperature, if anybody was feeling even close to the way I was feeling, I was like, if you've been, you'll feel like you get to go again. And if you've never been, you will actually get to smell, taste, feel, get some of the local culture. Because I was in Big Sur in March. So, I literally remember how it smells. I remember how the air felt on my skin.
Yeah.
I had a very weird conversation with a dude named Merlin in a sequoia forest. Not kidding. His name was Merlin. Who just walks around in the woods, except for me, and meets a guy named Merlin who wants to talk about how redwood trees can hear people talking.
You can't make some of this stuff up. And I think that just falls into line with you becoming an author and sharing some of this. And like I said, I know you're a fictional writer, but there's so many of your own content and stories that you can simply use like that. how cool to have something that cool come out of COVID and do a partnership with somebody else that you don't typically do that.
Right.
And, I mean, those are tons of positives, and you are kind of going on a virtual journey and taking your readers along with you.
Right. Yeah. And, she and I are both really proud of that too, because, it's really easy after 2 or 3 weeks of being kind of locked up, being worried about your job, being worried. I mean, the toilet paper thing, I don't understand. I mean, toilet paper's great, but, I was more worried about, I don't know, dying, not having any money, being homeless, so those were kind of like sort of, higher level issues for me. But, she and I were just talking one day, and we were just like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, I'm going to write, I'm going to read books and I'm going to write. And she's like, well, I'm reading books and I'm writing. And I'm like, and she's the one who actually suggested it. I was, I've done a few partnerships with people before, and it could be really hard. I mean, writing with another person, like you two have this channel you do together. If you have the right people, it's magical and it's amazing. If you have the wrong people, oh my gosh, it's just like the worst. And you can't get away from it, you know what I mean? And, and I had known her for a while, so, so that was cool, but you still never know. It's like the first time you go on vacation with somebody and you go somewhere like really remote, and then you just realize they don't know how to be in a place like that, or they're just like exceptionally rude to like service people in restaurants or whatever, and you're like literally 3,000 miles away from like wherever, and you can't ditch this person. You're stuck with them for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or whatever. But thankfully none of that happened. But I do tell people, if you get into a partnership with somebody, especially a creative one, if you don't know that person, if you really don't know their style, if you're not entirely sure that you can hang out with each other, on a remote island with no Wi-Fi and not want to choke each other, you might want to rethink it.
Chemistry is a big deal for sure.
It's huge. It's huge. And with COVID and being locked up with your family and being worried about all this other stuff or whatever, the stress level is like through the roof for everybody. So can you imagine if it was not a good partnership and the COVID thing, it would just be like, I'm going to go lay face down in the grass and, just come find me tomorrow. Maybe I'll, be okay. I don't know. But
yeah, it's crazy. You feel like you have a pair of patient pants that have to grow and stretch, yet your other pair is shrinking. So
I know, exactly. And to me, there's no time to wallow or to really be afraid. There are times in life to be afraid. And of course, all of these changes we've all been through this year, it's scary. It's certainly scary. And I wrote another book that was a new release that came out in June that's about a devil car. And what's kind of hilarious is this devil car isn't even scary compared to COVID. Right? Yeah. I mean, like, think about the year we've all had. So in the story, the girl's in Warsaw and actually rides in this devil car that's an urban legend from the area. Wow. And I read about it in an in-flight magazine when I was going to London a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, this is such a crazy story. So, wow. But, I think about that a lot, though, the past couple of months, that the fact that getting basically kidnapped by some supernatural person in a devil car is less scary than 2020.
I think we have all learned this year, anything, and that means positive, can happen.
Right.
Shauna, I think, okay, do we have you? Do you hear us?
Yeah, I'm in and out. I keep losing audio, but I pop back in and I laugh when I hear a joke.
Okay. Just making sure.
But yeah, I did want to ask, and we ask all of our guests, so I don't want to not ask you, but and I know you've looked at our stuff, but the red bra really symbolizes those moments of courage, having confidence, you know, whether that bra is on the outside of your clothes or inside and people can't see it. But what is one of those moments where you just felt so strong?
You know, I think this year, you know, this year there have been a lot of those moments, but you know, when after we had been kind of locked up for about a month, you know, around here, and the state of Georgia actually decided to sort of, you know, open businesses and all of that kind of stuff way before the rest of the country. And you know, I'd been trying not to shop, trying not to go out, you know, at all, because I was concerned if something happened to me, you know, what's my family going to do? You know, I need to be okay for them, if not even for myself. So for me, actually going out in the world again with a face covering on and not being afraid, doing whatever I need to do, and not being petrified was kind of a huge deal, because I saw a lot of other people being petrified, kind of a little bit frozen, not able to, you know, go out in the world again without extreme anxiety. And I have to admit that, you know, when I was standing in line that first time and I was in Walmart, you know, and this isn't Walmart's fault or whatever, but there was a person behind me who absolutely did not respect the space. Excuse me. And he was so close to me. I mean, like this. And and finally I turned around and I said, you need to step back. Do you see the big circle that says, you know, 6 feet away? You're 1 foot away. Let's move 5 feet back. You know, and the woman who was, you know, running things through the register was, you know, I could tell she was kind of tired of everybody, but she sort of laughed. This guy didn't think it was funny, but he did do it. But I think there's so many acts of courage, so many red bra moments this year. I mean, I started New Year's with my family jumping in the freezing cold ocean. We do it every year at high noon on January 1st. So if you're ever near Savannah on January 1st, I'm going to make you jump in the ocean with us.
But I will not be there then.
Even my mom did it. My mom did it a few years ago. I couldn't believe it. She did it. She was so cool about it. But yeah, you know, it started with courageous acts, and we try to do that. We've been doing it for 10 years now with our kids. But for me, you know, the past couple of years, the most courageous thing has been to keep going, even though I get a lot of discouragement. You know, people tell me, oh, you're not good enough, or you're too old, or you're too chubby, or you're too blonde, or you're too whatever. You know, I can't even tell you how many times I've had people tell me I was too something. I'm like, well, when am I going to be enough? You know, so I think the most courageous thing anybody can do is to stop trying to please everyone else and try to please themselves and try to follow their dreams. Even if nobody else on the planet believes in you, believe in yourself, because, you know, you got to do that first. And there's so many people who want to tell you you're not going to succeed, who want to tell you what you're doing wrong. So, you know, and that's fine. You know, critical feedback is great, and I think it's important for people to get it. But on the other hand, if you listen to all of that negative feedback, you're never going to do anything. You're never going to be brave. And bravery sometimes is truly just about doing whatever your heart tells you to do, even if nobody else understands it.
Oh, I love that. That's so good.
Thank you.
That should be a quote. That should be a quote in the beginning of one of your books.
Well, maybe it will be. Maybe it will be. Maybe in the beginning of Invisible Summer.
Hey, look, we have Red Bra First. Maybe this is a Red Bra First born book. I don't know.
That's right. I know. I think I am going to have a male character with really great abs. I'm just going to throw that in because,
why not?
You know, yeah, I think that's going to be the quiet new neighbor. You know, and maybe maybe he'll be really nice, maybe he won't, maybe he'll be, you know, spooky and mysterious. He'll be doing, you know, sort of black market toilet paper distribution from his garden shed.
Oh man, after this year, yeah, anything is possible.
Yeah, really. I know. I've never in my life seen so many discussions about toilet paper etiquette in my life.
Well, I love your red bra share, and I think that it is so important, especially during this time, and reflecting on, you know, those things that we thought were courageous and brave, and how we've all kind of had a major reality check, and some of us are
Right.
struggling with going back out just in public and dealing with that anxiety. And oh, that's just a good message, because you're not alone. You're not alone out there, and everybody is feeling it. You may feel lonely, but everybody's feeling it. So thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing
yeah.
that, Bibiana. So we talked a little bit about your new series coming out September 7th, but tell all of our listeners and viewers where they can find you, what they can find more of, and your 25 free certificates for the audiobook, for the book we didn't talk about yet. So shine a little light on it.
Okay, well, it's Escape into the Blue. Escape into the Blue was the novel pages that I read to that professor on that island who gave me the scholarship.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it was really my first. It's kind of a psychological thriller, coming of age. It's about a teenage runaway in the Caribbean who's beautiful and absolutely nuts. She's out of her mind. She does stuff that's really dangerous, and she meets really dangerous people. And you know, you get the nature. I mean, you are on a Caribbean island with this girl, and she loves the ocean. So, but you're also hanging out with you know, a Don, you know, a crime boss. So there's some pretty crazy stuff that happens on this
Sounds like
island.
another great fall read.
Yeah, you know, and it's a great beach read too.
Yeah,
It really is. It's so yeah, you're gonna get that full. If you don't feel like you're on a Caribbean island after you're done reading this, I don't know where you've been, because you're gonna there's a lot of rum in this story, a ton of rum. I love rum. So but Escape into the Blue just went to audio, also taped and recorded during COVID by the fantastic narrator Megan Meyer. And she's getting her master's right now of fine arts as well. So she's just fantastic, and she agreed to work with me on this project. And you know, it just came out maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I have 25 promotional certificates, and people can get in contact with me and tell me that you saw the Red Bra project. Just www.bibiana, BibianaKrall.com/contact, and send me a message and tell me that you saw the ladies, you know, show, or you were on their blog or whatever. And all I need is an email, and I can send you a free certificate, and you can, you know, give it to a friend if you want. You can listen to it yourself. If you want to leave a review on Audible, that's great. But you don't have to. There's no requirement, and there's no catch to it, because Audible is really wonderful. They give me X amount of certificates that I can offer to people, and Escape into the Blue is great because you have Sophia, who takes these enormous chances. I mean, enormous chances, and she's putting all this change in her life, and she's in between this bohemian, you know, enjoyment of, you know, being free, because she's only 17. So I mean, this girl's supposed to be at home going to high school. Instead, she's bartending in the Caribbean and meeting really hot guys named Armando. So what can I say? But yeah, so you get a little bit of that romance in there too. But you know, she's living the 17-year-old fantasy of basically not being at home doing the stuff you're supposed to do. But yeah, the audiobook is like 8.5 hours long. So if you drive, or you have a lot of yard work,
road trip like you.
right. But the cool thing about Audible is, in iTunes, you can just download like the little app and you can stop it where you're at and you can listen to it next week or what, like you don't have to listen. I mean, who the heck has 8 or 9 hours to do anything straight right now except make money, right? Or sleep if you're lucky. But but yeah, Escape into the Blue is a really cool story because it has the elements of romance, it has adventure in the Caribbean, but it also has some social dialogue in there too, because Sophia, you know, she comes from Chicago and she goes down to the Caribbean and doesn't know anything about the Caribbean, and she's noticing, you know, differences and imbalances in some of the social aspects of what goes on the island. Like there's a huge difference between the visitors and the people who actually live on the island and serve the visitors when they show up on the cruise ships and that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of that going on sort of in the background. I mean, how much does a 17-year-old know about any of that? But still there's a real feeling that you're on an island. So I know one of you, I saw some pictures of St. Thomas. I forget who
Yeah,
who are this?
that's me.
Those were yours? Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about, when you're on the island and like it's time for school, you'll see all the little kids in their cute little uniforms, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And that it's a totally different aspect of society than what you might see like over in Charlotte Amalia when the ships come in.
Oh yeah, totally different.
Yeah, totally different crowd, different everything. So I tried to cover both of those aspects because I lived in the Caribbean for a couple of years, and I noticed that there's a huge difference between living in the Caribbean and visiting the Caribbean. But you do always have the best rum, though, if you live on the island. I have to say that. It's true.
Rum's cheaper than milk.
It is $3 a bottle, for goodness sake.
Just saying.
$3 a bottle. Oh my gosh, I miss those days. I really do. I used to mix it with like fresh mango and papaya juice.
Ooh.
The best. Like 151 white rum. Woo!
Well,
we are so grateful that you're sharing that, and you shared your website. Can you share where else our guests can find you, or our viewers?
Well, you know, my biggest presence is on Twitter. Basically, I'm just Bibiana Krall on Twitter, or you can just type in my name, and I'm on Twitter so much I think I just show up. But I have my own hashtag, which is #ReadOriginal. So that people can find a lot of my other stuff. But I'm also on YouTube, Bibiana Krall Books and Barefoot Films. And I'm also on Instagram as Stardust Mermaid. And I did that initially because I wasn't even sure if I was going to stay on the platform because I didn't really understand why people just looked at pictures and liked them and stuff. But, you know, I'm starting to actually meet people. So now it's making sense. But before I was like, I have pictures in my camera roll. Why am I on this? You know, why am I here? So I'm starting to understand that you can actually form relationships with people. But my website really is the best place because usually when I'm working on something new, or I have a new book coming out, my YouTube and my website, bibianakrall.com, usually is where I try to flagship stuff because I'm putting content out all the time. So those are the best places to really look. But Hearthfires, you know, the new collection with Veronica Klein-Barton, I'm just so excited about. The stories are so good. I'm actually thinking about pitching them as a TV series when in a month or so when we're, you know, past the phase of doing the launch and that kind of stuff. I'm honestly thinking about having us write another year's worth of stories and pitching the series.
So cool. That would be awesome. I'm so excited to read it too.
Well, I can't wait. You guys need to make sure that you send me an email with a way to get you, you know, a physical copy of the book. And I'll send you a little spooky Halloween swag to go with it because, you know, but we are already planning a book too. We've been so happy and thrilled with how this has gone that we have, we're talking about haunted objects next year. So we'll see if that happens.
How
I'm
exciting.
a little scared of like Annabelle and, you know, like, oh my
Oh
God.
my gosh, it is so creepy.
I know supposedly she got away again,
Ah.
you know, like she escaped last week. And, you know, so I was joking around that Annabelle was like surfing and Annabelle was on the ferry. And, you know, I haven't seen her, thankfully.
Oh my
But,
goodness. Yes.
but yeah, you know,
Dawn is not
I
gonna
love,
sleep tonight at all.
well, Annabelle's surfing on the, you know, she's on the ferry going to Catalina. You're fine.
I know you're like, I'll send you the book. I'm like, I'll start sleeping with the lights on. That's fine. It's good.
Well, the most interesting thing about these stories is there is a little bit of truth in some of them, especially my story, The Window. You know, like I said, I had to change it because we're dealing with kind of scary people who have done some very, very bad things. And, you know, why certain things never get dealt with, that's a great question. I'm going to ask that question in the next life, perhaps. But you know, I like to talk about the mysterious world because the mysterious world has always been part of mine. And when I was a little kid, I used to think it was some sort of like mental defect or something, you know, in myself. And now I just realize that my wiring is different than a lot of people's wiring. And I've come to accept that, you know, when I hear messages or when something connects the dots, like the weird thing being drawn in the window or whatever, they're messages for me, and they shouldn't scare me. Instead, what they should do is force me to think about where they fit. And, you know, I had a very dear friend pass away last Wednesday, and we sort of knew some of this was coming, you know, and that kind of stuff. But this is what's so weird, and this is going to be one of the stories next year. So I wrote a story about hippies in the 60s, and these people were getting haunted by these ghosts in San Francisco. And she read the story, and I didn't know this about her past, but apparently this woman was partying the summer of 67. You know, she was there. And I was born in 68, so I'm like making all this stuff up, right? But anyway, she was apparently in the Marin Headlands partying with Jefferson Starship, you know, during the big times, you know, the summer loving times of San Francisco. And all of a sudden on Wednesday morning, just out of the blue, I started singing the song White Rabbit. And I was like, oh, this is so bizarre. And then 2 or 3 days later, the song came back in my head, and finally I was like, okay, I have to just play it. But I've come to the conclusion that this is a message from her letting me know that she's okay. Like she's like, you know, in some distant star belt or whatever. And maybe she's hanging out with some of the people she met during that crazy, crazy time. But, you know, the lyrics to White Rabbit don't just show up in my head. You know, that's not a normal thing for me. So, but when those messages come, you know, being a writer, being a creative person, you have to wonder if those are symbols, if those are signs, and if it's some sort of roadmap or direction to tell you what you should do next or what you should consider next. But I think I am going to have a story called White Rabbit, and I'm going to have somebody from the beyond, you know, sending messages to someone. And, you know, maybe there will be a real white rabbit, maybe there won't, maybe there will be some sort of Alice in Wonderland connection to it or something. But I do know that white rabbit thing was a message. And not everybody would be willing to say that or believe it. But it doesn't even matter to me if other people believe it. I already know it. So, you know, and when you're a writer, you can't question that stuff. You have to take it as a gift and roll with it. And because you're going to have plenty of people wanting to criticize you for, you know, your naturally curly hair or your super geek glasses or whatever. You know, somebody's always going to have something they, you know, aren't really crazy about you. But those kind of things, when you see those happen, like when you see like a, I don't know, a purple burst come off a sunset or whatever, those are messages for you, even if you're not a writer. So you should be paying attention to those things.
Well, I definitely love how you're in tune to that and you share it, and you're bringing awareness to other people as well who may not be. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your past and some of your upcoming new projects and just a little bit of your path with us. So I know that it's gonna touch people, especially during right now, who are struggling or going through career changes and aren't sure about, did I just feel or see a sign, or should I do, or should I take the jump? So I think that's really remarkable.
Right.
So thank you. And you may know from watching some of our episodes, but we wrap every show with a quote. And so the quote that we chose for you tonight was traveling. It leaves you speechless, then turns you into a storyteller. Ivan Batata. And so we thought that was a perfect fit for you because, you know, while don't go cutting up your passport just yet, because I truly believe we're going to get back there. You're going to be able to fill your book and our books and, you know, so many great stories. So keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are so welcome. And for all of our viewers tonight, thank you guys for joining us. Please make sure to join and follow Bibiana and check out all of her upcoming fall books. They are so exciting. I can't wait. And if you're going to take advantage of that audiobook, we'll kind of put into our stories and on our blog. And, you know, you can rewind and listen to exactly how to contact her. We'll pop it up there as well. So make sure to get your free audio book from her. And thank you guys all for joining. Make sure to hit subscribe. If you have a nomination of another Red Bra guest, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us by our Instagram page. Simply reply as a comment on YouTube, or reach out to us at redbraproject@gmail.com. So thank you guys, everybody. It was so great seeing you all tonight, ladies.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. This has been great. I really, really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. And we enjoyed our time with you. I think Shauna's frozen and we may have lost her audio, but yeah, look good, girl. I don't think she's there, but okay. She was there for most.
Yeah, it just went away.
All right, everyone, have a great night.